Oh, I'm Phoebe Jeebies. Action. Hi, I'm Phoebe Jeebies, and welcome to yet another episode of Phoebe Gets Baked, the best show ever. This episode is the conclusion of our three-part Thanksgiving pie countdown. And what pie are we making? Well, ginger apple pie. If you've been thinking, where's the pie crust? Where's that classic all-American dessert? Well, I'm feeling a bit more patriotic these days. So, I'm gonna make you my apple pie, which has some fresh ginger, add some zing and spice. We're gonna make our crust from scratch. I'm gonna show you the way I do it, and it's gonna be really fun. It's gonna take a while. So strap in and get your ingredients ready, because we're gonna make this pie, and it's gonna be delicious. Let's see what ingredients we're gonna need for this recipe. Oh! All right, those are our ingredients. Well, let's get to it. The first thing we're gonna do is prepare our crust from scratch. That's right, we're making it from scratch. Add 2.5 cups of flour to a big bowl. Spoon your flour in, and then level it off. Now we're gonna add a teaspoon of salt. Ew. Ew. And you know me, a little more for good luck, 'cause I'm a salty bitch. And whisk it together. Now that our flour and salt are whisked together, we can grab our butter and our Crisco. So cut it once down the middle, and then cut it again down the middle, and then just go this way. And you get cubes. And this will be easier to cut into our pie crust. We've got our 1 cup of butter cubed. Now we're gonna add 3/4 of a cup of Crisco. Because you know I love Crisco. There are a lot of different ways to make pie crust. Some people will do it with only shortening. Some people will do it with only butter. I saw one person who did it with canola oil. I do a mixture, and we're just gonna take these and chill them in the freezer for 5 to 10 minutes so they're ice cold when we add them to our flour and salt. All right, our butter and our Crisco have chilled. Now we're gonna add them right into our flour and salt. And you're gonna cut these ingredients together until it starts to resemble like small pea-sized crumbs. If you're not seeing that, your butter is probably too warm. It needs to be ice cold. Otherwise, it will melt and then you won't get a flaky, buttery crust.
The line is baked in a buttery, flaky crust.
Baked on a buttery, crispy crust. That close?
Dak, flaky.
I thought I said flaky.
Buttery, flaky, crisp. Crispy, flaky crumb. All right. We've got some pea-sized crumbs, you see that? If you don't have a pastry cutter, you can use 2 knives, and you just kind of cut it together until it's pea-sized. It's gonna take longer. Get a pastry cutter. Now we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of chilled vodka. I keep mine in the freezer. And then you can take your pastry cutter again, or you can take a spatula. We're gonna mix that in. With this added liquid, the crumbs should start to get a little bit bigger than pea-sized. Once they start to form larger clumps, you're in the right direction. If they're still not there, you can start adding a little bit of water. I would say no more than a 1/4 cup of ice water. I'm gonna add a bit of water to this because it's still a little dry. The amount of liquid that your pie crust needs is going to depend on the humidity where you are. And now we're going to add it just a little bit at a time, only as much as you need. Don't add the entire quarter cup unless you really need it. If during this process you notice that your butter is starting to melt and you're not seeing flecks, get it into the fridge or the freezer as fast as possible and give it a little while before you start working with it again. This is what it looks like, so you can pretty much tell it's going to come together pretty easily. And now you're just going to turn it out onto your clean, floured work surface. And it should come right together. If it doesn't, you did it wrong. Add more water. No big deal. This crust, because it has vodka in it, will be a little more forgiving. Vodka inhibits the development of gluten, which is the enemy of pie crust. You do not want gluten because that takes away from the buttery, flaky crust
Baked in a bake. Oh.
that you want in a pie. So because of this vodka, if you overwork it a little bit, it shouldn't ruin the pie like it would if you had just used water. That's why I recommend using vodka. We're going to split our dough in half because half of it is going to be for the bottom of the tin and the other half is going to be on top of the pie. And we're going to wrap each half up in some plastic wrap and let it sit in the fridge for at least 2 hours. Alright, now we have turned out our pie dough onto our generously floured surface. And we are going to beat it down into a shape that we can roll out to roughly 3 to 4 inches larger than the size of our pie tin. You want to roll it up and down and then side to side to try to keep the shape consistent. You want to roll it onto your rolling pin and then transfer it to your baking dish. I'm not a professional baker, so I feel like if it tears anywhere or it doesn't look perfect, just take some extra dough and patch it. People are already going to be so excited that you made the dough from scratch that no one's really going to care anyway. Now our crust is in our pie tin. We're going to stick it in the freezer for 15 minutes. And once we stick it in the freezer, we're going to preheat our oven to 375 degrees for our blind bake. See you in 15. Our pie dough has come out of the freezer after 15 to 20 minutes. Our oven is preheated to 375. Now we are going to take some parchment paper. And at this point you can add your pie weights. If you don't have pie weights, I don't. You can also add beans or rice. You just want them to weigh down the parchment paper. And we do this because we don't want our crust to puff up while it bakes. And now it's still ice cold. We're going to pop it right into the oven and we are going to bake it for 15 minutes. Then we will remove our parchment paper and let it bake for another 15 minutes. Once your pie comes out of the oven, let it cool a bit and up your oven temperature from 375 to 400. Now we can put together our filling. First, we are going to start with our dry ingredients. We have half a cup of dark brown sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, half of a teaspoon of dried ground ginger, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and 1 tablespoon of flour. Now we're going to whisk all of our dry ingredients together. Make sure they're fully mixed up. Break down those bigger pieces of dark brown sugar because we're going to sprinkle this over the top of our apple and ginger. I have my 5 Granny Smith apples already peeled, cored, and sliced up in here. Now I'm going to add my 1 teaspoon of fresh grated ginger. With our ginger and apple in the bowl, we're going to zest 1 lemon. And once we've zested our lemon, we'll cut it open and we'll use the juice from that entire lemon and also add it to our apple and ginger. Our apples, ginger, lemon zest, and lemon juice are all mixed together. Now we take our dry ingredients and we're going to sprinkle them all over. And let's just go for it. And then we'll mix them up. And that'll be our filling. I just go in with my hands, clearly. But you can use a spatula or a fork if you want. I just feel like this is faster. I like to get my hands dirty. Now we're going to add our apple mixture into our crust. And now we'll put this aside and we have to work with our pie crust yet again. And now just roll out your pie dough to a length big enough to cover the top of your pie. And once you've got your pie crust on top of your pie, just cut a few slits so that the steam can escape while it's in the oven. And we're just gonna put it in for another 30 to 40 minutes. Halfway through baking in the oven, you should take your pie out and apply your egg wash. Just whip up an egg, brush it onto the top of your pie. It helps it achieve a beautiful golden brown color. Almost done. Waiting on pie. Our pie has come out of the oven after 40 minutes. It is a nice, beautiful golden brown. It's looking a little rustic. I think that's fine. It's an apple pie, it's all American, and America is a little worse for the wear in some spots, so why wouldn't our all-American apple pie? Take a look. We've got that lovely golden brown color. It has just come out of the oven. So now what you want to do is let it sit for 3 to 4 hours so it can come down to room temperature and the inside can really set so that it doesn't fall apart or run everywhere when you cut into it. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Phoebe Gets Baked. If you like what you saw, follow me on Instagram at Phoebe Jeebies NYC. You can take pictures or share videos of yourself baking along with my recipes. If you do, tag me and use the hashtag Phoebe Gets Baked. I love to see people trying out my recipes. If you'd like to send me a virtual tip, my handles for Venmo and Cash App are Phoebe Jeebies NYC. And if you want to buy this recipe, you can Venmo or Cash App me $5 with the subject ginger apple pie, and I will send you a PDF of this recipe. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I'll see you for the next one. Phoebe, out. Welcome to another episode of Phoebe Gets Baked. The best, I don't know how to do the show that makes your peepers grow. Okay, I don't normally say other things. I did this 2 weeks ago. I don't remember how to do it.
You do this every week.
I know. What's wrong with me? Acting! Acting is reacting. Okay.
I'm like, it's been a long time.
Right.
Sickening, no? You're Jason.
I'm not Jason. My name is Phoebe G. Reese.
You laughing too hard.